As always, Ted kicks off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
Oh, big money Creed. How about Creed Humphrey, huh? 72 milli? Not too bad.
That'll work. You can buy a whole
That'll
lot of cold
do.
beer with that, brother.
Some cold beers. What I'm just thrilled for him. The best dude ever. He's clearly been incredible. He's the best center in the NFL now, right?
I, I think the last couple of years, especially, I think last year he was the best center in the NFL.
Yeah.
I thought he was better than Kelsey. Now, there were some people that will disagree with that, but he is he's outstanding. I I don't know what else to say. This is the best compliment I can give Creed. It's boring to watch him. I find myself bored watching him lock down guys over and over and over again. He grabs them, they don't go anywhere, they don't move. I'm like, all right, well, this is uneventful. He's excellent. He's the best center in the history of Oklahoma football. He's the best center in the National Football League. And I have no problem saying this. If he continues playing the way that he's playing, if he continues on this trajectory, he's going to the NFL Hall of Fame. He's that good. It's just the truth. And that's why he's the highest paid center in football because, duh, he deserves to be. He's the best. And I don't really even think it's a debate, man. He's
I
that
know.
good.
He he's great. And the other thing is like he's gigantic, he's strong, he holds point in the pass game. Like I don't know how many times you see in the pass game, typical drop back pass, then Mahomes starts to move around. There's people all over the field, and it looks like Creed is like 10 yards down the field because he hasn't moved from the line of scrimmage at all. Everyone else is way back there, and he's got someone locked down right at the line of scrimmage. It's
Just
hilarious.
just got some vice grips on a guy. It is just made their like just taken away their will to play the game because they can't move once he's got him. He's incredible, man. I told everyone that would listen that he was going to be a better pro than he was a college player, and he was a damn good college player. But he's big, he's strong. I think the one thing that people don't give him enough credit about, that dude is athletic. He
He
can
can move.
run.
Did you see that clip, that running play against the 49ers?
I have watched every every single play he's played as a professional on tape. Because a former player, you can get access to that stuff if you ask the NFL for it. He's dude, he's amazing. Like
Yeah.
he's so good at football. It sounds so stupid. Like he's so good at football. And now, if you're a Chiefs fan, you've got one complaint about Creed. Snaps. That's the only complaint. That's the only thing you say. Well, hey, he's had a few, he snaps a little low sometimes. Creed has adjusted that. He's changed his grip on the snap. That issue is going away. Imagine what they would have paid him if he didn't have a couple bad snaps in his career. That's what I told
73
him.
million. Did it cost him $1 million?
They would have given you 75, dude. Come on.
Dude, just get if now if you could just learn to snap the ball, you're
Yeah.
really gonna be good. Yeah, that dude's incredible. Happy for him. It's awesome.
Who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
I think I had to go to Big 12. Talks that they're going to be adding UConn to the conference first in hoops. Football is supposedly going to come later. Are we just adding anyone at this point in the Big 12? Like at some point, don't you have to go quality over quantity? I mean, UConn only brings one thing to the game. It's hoops. That is a big deal, but I don't know that it does it necessarily expand your conference footprint in a good way.
You get the best hoops program that has that has value,
Yeah.
especially if eventually like you split the football, if your conference TV deal, like if that whole thing gets split. I know that your Mark has talked about wanting to make the basketball TV deal like its own separate thing.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see if that happens. But Jim Mora's done a pretty good job with UConn football.
Yeah.
I played UConn in a Fiesta Bowl.
I remember that.
Now they weren't a very good team, but they were there and they deserved to be there.
That was Hype's first game calling it,
I
right?
I mean, yeah, you think about it like that. There was once upon a time where UConn they were playing some good ball. They won the Big East. So I don't know. I don't know what the ceiling from a football perspective of UConn is, but getting UConn hoops, I think that absolutely solidifies the Big 12 as the premier basketball conference. I think a lot of people view it that way anyways, but if you get the best basketball program, and it doesn't seem like Hurley's going anywhere after turning down the Lakers job,
Right.
I don't I it certainly doesn't hurt the brand of the Big 12. It just comes down to, okay, how are we dividing the pie when it comes to the TV deal? I don't know, but they can figure that out.
I guess I don't know what the exact formula is in the tournament, but if you're sending I mean, they could lock down the Final Four. Honestly, I
Right.
mean, it's not hard to envision an Arizona, Kansas, Houston, UConn Final Four, right? I mean, that's
No.
just chalk.
Just lock up all the little credits you get for having teams in the tournament.
That's right. Yeah, and, you know, who knows? Like they mentioned maybe football coming online later. I guess being in the conference and getting a share and being able to grow your budget, you know, helps them maybe grow the football program to a point where they're okay coming online. But I don't know. I guess it's just I wonder where it stops with the Big 12 more than anything on adding people, because he seems dead set on adding as many teams as he can get to agree to it. And I get it. There's you want to add people, you want to add to your footprint, but every time you add, you divide the pie up. So they better bring something to the table.
We'll see. Jim Mora had a very surprising year one, big drop off last year. I have no idea. I don't think it really has anything to do with football. I think it's all about getting Hurley and that basketball program into the mix in the Big 12 and
Yep.
just becoming undoubtedly the superpower conference in college basketball. I think that's what
Have
it's all
they?
about.
Because there was rumors at one point about Gonzaga. Is that still out there? Have you
That
heard?
was that I haven't heard anything about it in a while, but that was part of it. And all of a sudden, if UConn gets in there, is that like the nudge Gonzaga needs? And then all
Yeah,
of a sudden, you get Gonzaga in the mix. My gosh,
yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
the Big 12's never taken football over. That's done. So might as well try to
Yeah,
be the premier basketball
play
conference.
to
Why
your
not?
strengths.
Exactly. All right, let's finish up with my winner and loser. But first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all have a lot going on in our lives, and sometimes as adults, we lose our curiosity to learn new things. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Visit betterhelp.com/OKC to get 10% off your first month. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder in life. I started talking to a therapist way back when I was playing in the NFL. I was stressed out, bottom of the roster guy. Therapy helped me a lot. I'm a big believer in therapy and believe it can help so many people if they just try it. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you go from there. You can even switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Therapy can help you focus on what really matters in life. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/OKC to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/OKC to get 10% off your first month.
Insurica launched a new digital agency introducing Insurica Direct. Whether you're in Oklahoma or anywhere across the U.S., they've got you covered. From small business insurance and health insurance for your employees to insurance for individuals like home, auto, and even Medicare supplements. Insurica Direct's got it all. Start your journey today at insuricadirect.com. Remember, at Insurica, we specialize in you.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off. Opolisclothing.com, promo code TED, buttery soft, and 10% off. My word of the weekend, the mighty Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
What a game.
Florida State went all the way to Dublin, brought all those fans. They took over that stadium. Georgia Tech said, we do not care. Here's your walk-off field goal. Have a nice flight home. Hold this L.
Woo.
That was Georgia Tech's offense is fun, man. A lot of shifts, a lot of motions, a lot of post-snap eye candy as well. They got speed at the skill spots. They got a veteran offensive line that was absolutely getting after a Florida State defensive line that's supposed to be one of the better ones in the country. I should have known. Brent Key, offensive line guy, as a head coach. I mean, they got after him, Ted. And it was football can be a pretty simple formula. They were more physical at the line of scrimmage, and they had the better quarterback.
Yep.
That is a good combination to go win a game in Dublin. That was impressive from Georgia Tech.
It was. They ran the ball. They just kept running it right at Florida State. And you're right, Brent Key. I always laugh because I would be a horrible head coach whenever they were setting up for that final field goal and they screwed up that exchange and lost, like, I don't know how many yards, lost 8-10 yards on that play. I would have lost my mind on the sideline. You ruined it. We had him. You ruined it. He never changed his demeanor. He was calm. We're fine. We'll chew some of it back right here. We're in a good spot. Calm, cool, collective there on the sideline. And they did. They had a nice play on the next down and chewed a big portion of that back up. So I thought they were a very well-coached football team out there. And I think I didn't get to see the entire game. I watched the whole second half, almost every single play. Georgia Tech just looked like the better football team.
No doubt.
It wasn't like they hit on some crazy stuff, and they looked like they were clearly the better football team.
There was nothing fluky about it.
Exactly.
And now I was a little nervous when they kind of settled for that field goal late. I don't know if that was the plan. The snap was late because the center couldn't hear the clap snap count. Please stop doing the clap snap count, please. Please stop it. It's absurd. But I watched pretty much every single play of the game and went, the team in white is better than the team in whatever red Florida State wears. And the team in white had more of a difference maker than the team in red at quarterback. And DJ Uiagalelei, he's getting a lot of heat. He did have some really nice throws in the fourth quarter when they absolutely had to have them. But he's not mobile, man. He's no threat with his legs. And meanwhile, Haynes King was just moving all around, making plays with his legs as a runner and extending plays in the passing game. If you are not a mobile guy, which Uiagalelei really isn't, you better be able to push it down the field and threaten a defense. And whether it was Mike Norvell not designing plays that way, or if it was DJU not taking chances down the field, maybe it was a combination of both. I don't know, but it felt like Georgia Tech never felt threatened vertically. And maybe Georgia Tech's defensive backs deserve credit. Maybe those guys can just absolutely run and no one was open. But there were so many throws with at the line of scrimmage or, within a couple yards of the line of scrimmage, and they just never felt like they opened anything up.
Yeah. DJU, to me, he's a solid quarterback. He can make the throws. He can run the offense. But there's no pop. There's no playmaking. There's no like he brings no energy to the position or to the offense, and King on the other side is the exact opposite. He energizes the offense. He's running, he's making plays. Some of the throws he made, that throw he threaded on that follow route while he's getting tackled was just was beautiful. He's a baller. And I don't know, man. And this is the question I had about Florida State. Was it just one collection of guys and a run up where they were really good, or was it they've built a solid program? And this is a check mark on the side of maybe it was just a really good group of guys that all stayed together. So I don't know.
I do like the fact that with the expanded playoff, Florida State has this big setback in the opener, and their season doesn't feel completely over. Like all of their goals are technically still out in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether they are going to accomplish those goals, that's a completely different conversation. But for those players, that staff, the fan base, even, it's like the season's not over. And some people may say, well, I hate that. That's what I loved about college football. And I get that as well. But I, for one, think it's a good thing that you can have a really disappointing game one and still feel like, okay, boys, let's lock in, let's reset. Everything's still out in front of us. I like that about the new system. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, no, I got no problem with that. And I think here's what we're probably going to find out, that Georgia Tech is better than what most people envisioned them being. I'm not saying that Georgia Tech's going to be a top 15 program, but that's a good, solid football team. There was plenty of signs last year that it was a team that was headed in a really good direction, off to a big start this year. And like for Florida State, it's like it kind of turns into, does this game define you? I define the season, or is this a point where they rally and whatever issues that they may have had, they start to really dial in and fix their problems and march forward. I'm with you though. I like that. I like that. It's way more difficult to lose it off of just one game. I mean, and I guess I get both sides of it, but at the end of the day, we all want to see more better games, and I think that this system is going to give us that
Did you see,
on the front end and on the back end, actually.
right? Did you see Georgia Tech's Mike Backer?
I did.
44, the pads, the neck roll, the face paint, dude. He's not very great in zone coverage in important moments of the football game, but my goodness, what an aesthetic from that young man.
I know it. Yeah, you're right. One of those plays, I can't remember what one it was. I was like, where is he going in zone coverage?
It
But
was the
that
fourth
stuff
down in the fourth quarter where
is that the one? Is
DJU
that what?
just, yeah, rips it down the middle of the field.
Yeah, yeah. And he like dropped to the opposite side.
Yeah, he
But no,
overlaps in another guy's zone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
he was fun. He was good in the box though.
Yeah,
Some of that run
he is
stuff.
a box linebacker.
Physical at the point of attack, knockback tackler, had some attitude to him. Little throwback player. He was fun to watch.
Kurt Herbstreit. I just imagine him flying home with the biggest grin on his face. Now he put a classy tweet out about Florida State, like, "Hey, season's not over." It was very classy of Kurt, but he was getting booed every time he talked on set at game day. That's his show. That couldn't have sat well with him. I'm sure he understood it. I'm sure he loves the passion of the Florida State fans. But for them to do that, and they've been blaming him for them not going to the playoff all year leading up to this moment, and for Florida State to go out there and get beat. Kurt Herbstreit, he would never say it publicly, but that had to, in a small way, had to bring him a little satisfaction in a small way. I think that's only human nature, Ted.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he was kicked back, legs up. sitting back, reclining, relaxing, golden retriever laying on the floor next to him with a big smile on his face. Absolutely. Yeah, I
I
mean, it's been a wild swing in emotion for Florida State fans the last couple of games from where they were to where they are now. And I don't know, does it mean anything for Norvell or people? Because before last year, I mean, there was some pressure on. So I don't know. I know the fan base isn't going to be happy with that.
I think one thing that Norvell's going to start maybe feeling some pressure about is high school recruiting. It's really hard year in and year out to piece together a team where you're relying on portal guys to be
Yep.
really, really significant contributors. It's just hard, man. It's hard to blend all of that together. So I think he may start feeling some pressure of you got to start bringing in some more talented high school kids and developing those kids. I
Mhm.
think that's something you're going to hear. You're going to hear people start to talk about a little more.
Yeah. No,
Their recruiting
I
hasn't
agree.
been bad, but when you're suing your conference because you think you're too good for your conference, then you go
Yeah,
out and do that. The
I
narrative
didn't even
starts
think
ramping
about
up a little
that.
bit.
I didn't even think about that. Ah, that's painful. Yeah, that's painful, man. But again, I know it's not going to matter to Florida State's fan base, and it really shouldn't. But I think Georgia Tech is clearly a better football team than what people have thought they were going to be, myself included. I thought it was going to be a good, solid game. I thought Georgia Tech was going to cover, but Florida State would end up getting the win. But Georgia Tech, from my vantage point, looked like the better football team. So that, I mean, good for Georgia Tech. That could be tough for Florida State.
I feel like all eyes were on that game. Is Brent Key getting too much recognition? Maybe makes Georgia Tech fans a little uncomfortable. Like, no, 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 no. He's our guy.
Yeah,
Please, no. Because I saw
yeah.
what fifth outright win as a double digit underdog under Brent Key, 5-0 against ranked ACC teams. We'll see what ends up happening with this season for Georgia Tech, but you keep doing stuff like that as a head coach, and all of a sudden, Brent Key is a name. You know how athletic directors they all keep that short list.
Oh yeah,
Brent Key's going to be way up there on that short list if he keeps winning games and keeps building this thing out at Georgia Tech.
I know it. I don't know a whole lot about Georgia Tech, but
Good
I mean, you
school
start to,
in Atlanta.
yeah, you start to think about where they are geographically and the amount of players they're surrounded by. I mean, they knock out a couple of really good seasons. I mean, I could see them starting to grab some market share of recruits in that area quite a bit bigger than what they have now, and that could totally change you as a program.
They also have great jerseys, great color scheme.
I liked what they had yesterday. I thought that was pretty good yesterday.
Gold, white, and black. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just classic.
The
Just
all
looks
whites are
good.
good. They looked good.
They looked good. That O line, typically you're not thrilled about the all white as a bigger guy, but with the way that those guys played, clearly they embraced the the all white's just a bad look on fat guys. But
You think they had like oh my gosh, what is it called? The
Spanx,
Kardashian Spanx or whatever. They had some Spanx underneath there
tighten it up,
just to kind of
boys.
level things out a little bit. That was a good game.
Just a great game to start the college football
It
season.
was. It was.
Long flight home if you're a Florida State player, coach, or
Can you
fan.
imagine?
But for all of us sitting on our couch, just a fantastic way to start college football season.
Brutal for Florida State. Yep. Good one.
For my loser of the weekend, thought about going with SMU. Oof,
Yeah.
they were. I mean, if they didn't have a couple fourth quarter dimes from Preston Stone to that tight end RJ Maryland, Ponies were in serious trouble against Nevada. Serious trouble, but end up pulling it out 29-24 win. But I can just tell you right now, that offensive line is not going to get it done in ACC play.
Yeah.
They got serious problems up front. Preston Stone could be a very long season for that young man.
Yeah. Yeah. They step up in competition. And I don't know. You got to be able to show up. I mean, and I know these week zero games it's tough. Like you're never the best you're going to be all season early on. Everyone's going to improve. Florida State included, SMU included. This is just the starting point, but it's a race to get better really quickly for those teams, man. You better figure something out in a hurry.
We'll see, but I'm not optimistic after watching one football game from
Yeah.
SMU. Think they
Yeah.
could really struggle along the offensive line. We'll see. Could end up being wrong. We'll see what Rhett Lashley and that crew can get done. My loser of the weekend, though. Ted, we finally have SEC tiebreakers. It just comes in the form of a 22-page document on secsports.com/FB tiebreaker. I mean, it's all right there. It explains it all. It lays it out for you perfectly in detail. But I was reading through this document and I just looked at it and go, can we please go back to divisions? Like, is it that bad? Is that bad that I am that going through all the tiebreaker scenarios kind of broke me mentally? And I just said, you know what? Let's do divisions. It's fine. I don't want to have to read this every year.
I know it's funny though. After what we watched last year with the Big 12, it's funny that the SEC takes it right up to the 11th hour before there's a decision made on the tiebreaker situation. It's it just seems strange, doesn't it? I don't know. It's fascinating.
There are six main points. The first one's head to head among tied teams. Makes all the sense in the world. The second tiebreaker is record versus all common conference opponents among the tied teams.
Mm-hmm.
The third tiebreaker is record against the highest placed common conference opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the conference standings among the tied teams. The fourth tiebreaker, cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents among the tied teams. The fifth one is where I went, okay, I'm out. Like, what? Capped relative total scoring margin versus all conference opponents among the tied teams. Ted, what is capped relative total scoring margin?
No idea. I just don't even know what it is.
I I think my guess is that did you like if you played the same team or teams as a team you're tied with record wise, who beat those teams by more? Is that
Well, that's what I would think that what's the relative scoring margin against the conference opponents? But what does capped mean?
I don't know. That's why I asked you. I asked you. You're the smart one.
No idea what that means.
Capped relative scoring margin. That's a metric that is derived by comparing the team's points scored and allowed to the opponent's average points scored and allowed. Ah.
I
Does
don't
that
know why
make
they
did that clarify it for you?
no. Well, I mean it did, but I, I guess if you're when you're getting down to the number five metric, then it's all going to start to get weird. But
I I, for one, would rather the random draw of the tied teams be ahead of capped relative total scoring margin. Like if we're getting down to that, if we got to get
I
to bullet
know.
point five, let's draw out of a hat and put it on TV and make it very suspenseful. I mean, come on.
I mean, the meltdown of the other teams is that would be what makes it good, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
So
that would be something, man.
I want to run something by you. I was reading this document because you and I think we take a lot of pride in like knowing the rules
Hmm.
when we're calling the games and tiebreaker procedures. You don't know if they're going to come into play, but like we try to study up on all the stuff we're supposed to know. I think we take pride in that. And I was reading through this, and I know that I feel like we all want, when it comes to conference championship games, we all want the two best teams to play for a conference title. I think we all want that. But when you take away divisions, man, this thing gets messy, which led me to an idea. Do a random draw for divisions each year. And maybe you have to do it a couple years in advance for scheduling purposes. Okay. But you randomly, if you're the SEC, you randomly draw divisions every year. Two eight team divisions. You can use the thing they use at the NBA draft lottery. You can have the ping
Yeah,
pong balls. You can do names out of a hat, whatever. But you draw the divisions randomly. Those are the divisions for the season. You play your 7 division games and then a couple or one or two crossover games, depending on whether the SEC wants to play 8 or 9 conference games. You can randomly draw those as well. You turn it into a TV show.
I my only problem with that is it's 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 a good idea. Like there's
Oh,
a
it's
bunch
not
of
a
good
good
ideas.
idea, but it's less confusing than what we've got.
Right.
You take the two teams that win each division, they play in a title game.
Yeah. I the only problem with that goes all the way back to scheduling. You got to remember like
The
all of the
scheduling sucks anyways. Look at OU's schedule, look at
I
Florida's
know.
schedule, and then look at Missouri's schedule.
I
A
know.
random
I
draw. There's no way a random, I don't, statistically speaking, there is a way, but it's unlikely that you end up with a more unbalanced schedule than what Missouri's got and what Florida's got this year, or
right.
what
Well,
OU's got. OU's got the toughest SEC schedule. Missouri's got the
oh yeah.
easiest. So
Yeah.
that's where a random draw, like you're going to have a more balanced schedule than what we've got with those two teams this season. If you just end up
No.
with random divisions,
It's true. I agree with everything you're saying, but I would hey, I would like that. I would like anything. I don't care. Um I just know that no one would ever you can't get all those people to agree on anything. Anything. And like the main thing that they want is influence over scheduling. And to give up their influence over scheduling would be the most difficult ask of all time. Everyone wants to lobby for what their schedule looks like. But I like the idea.
make it random, put it on television. Everyone would be talking about it. It would be, I mean, just imagine the content. Imagine social media as you're randomly drawn who's going to be in the East and the West of the SEC for next season. Like it would be so fun. Let me make myself clear. This will never happen. It will never happen. But as I was reading the tiebreakers and going, why is this so damn complicated? Why is this so hard? I was like, you could just find a way to get back to divisions. And I don't know if there's a more fair way than, hey, draw a name out of the hat and hey, you're in the West. Draw a name out of the hat, you're in the East.
okay, like for example, like I think the difficulty of your schedule should factor in way more than most of these things. Imagine a scenario in which like Oklahoma and Missouri are tied to get
Right.
into the championship game. And I they only had to play like one or two difficult games and you had to play six top 15 opponents. Like that doesn't factor in here at all.
Well, with that example, if you're tied and you have the same record and you're OU and Missouri this year, it's easy. It's head to head. You're
Head
playing
to
each
head.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a
Yeah.
year they don't. I know what you're
Right.
trying to say. That like if two teams don't play each other, one's got a really tough schedule, one doesn't. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know.
I I read all
But
22 pages.
that's the beauty of college football is there's always something that doesn't make sense and pisses you off. Always. It's there's not like a clear vision of what may happen and how it would go down.
SECsports.com/FB tiebreaker. Go read all 22 pages like I did, people.
There's been 7 people log on to that website, and 5 of them were you.
Yeah, because I had to keep revisiting it. Like, oh my gosh, wait, what? Oh, it's not it's not simple, but we'll see how it works out. We'll see how it goes this season with these tiebreakers here in the new look SEC.